This week's episode of the Peach Live podcast is brought to you by Lost Articles Clothing. Go check out their Drifter and Forgotten collection right now and use the code PEACHLIVE for 15% discount on your order. This was a really cool episode for me. I was able to sit down with my dad on Father's Day week and talk about life, some of the things he experienced growing up, and how bringing, traveling and camping into our life has made a huge effect on me and my family. So it was really cool, just getting to sit down with him, getting to kind of hear some wisdom, some things that he's learned along the way. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Dad, thanks you so much for joining me today on this episode of the podcast. I mean, it's a very exciting one for me and a special one for me. This is Father's Day week,
Yeah,
so I'm really happy we're able to kind of do this week. It's a fitting week,
yeah,
to do.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it turned out, to be a week too with mom kind of on vacation right now. It's kind of worked out great.
Yeah,
It's been nice getting to spend some extra time with, with you and,
yeah,
we haven't, mom's, not really ever gone. So it's kind of nice. Been nice just getting to be around you a little bit
yeah,
these last few days. So
yeah,
thank you for doing this.
yeah. I'm happy to, and I'll just kind of give you a brief story about my life when I was young. My family uh, came from uh, Missouri. My dad and his dad, and uh, and the family, and they came from Missouri to California, and uh, at that time, it was back the late during the 30s, uh, during a rough time.
Yeah. So
So,
just, still kind of
oh,
coming out of the
oh,
depression,
oh,
a
yeah,
lot of people moving from Oklahoma, Missouri,
yeah,
the
right,
Midwest, when the
yeah,
Dust Bowl back,
yeah.
back kind
And
of
so
west.
when they came here, my grandfather and dad had belonged to a family that had automobiles back in Missouri. And so what they did, they took dad and grandfather both drove vehicles out here from Missouri to sell the vehicles out here in California. So they came out here and started selling vehicles, and then my grandfather met my grandmother, and uh, so after they had met, they had a family and several kids, and but my grandmother didn't live very long, and so she passed away, and so my dad and the kids, because there was kids, there was four of them, and most of the time that after the car deals that they sold and made some money, and they did pretty well, but they finally went to picking fruit because that's what was going on here in California.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fruit and a lot of stuff for farming, and it was a nice area. So Grandpa was down around Fresno, and so uh, his 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 wife's parents had a dairy, and
Okay.
so
Dairy farm.
yeah, had a dairy farm, and so anyway, he worked on the farm, and then he went out and they picked fruit and stuff like that, and it went on for several years, and Grandpa worked on the, like I said, the dairy and back and forth of the fruit, and then after Grandma passed away, then my dad and my grandfather came to Northern California, up here to uh, Sacramento. Actually, first they came into Sacramento, and there was a lot of fruit and stuff even around that area
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time.
And
So
as there still is, this is still one of the biggest,
yeah,
uh,
so anyway, they went to picking fruit and stuff of that sort, and then my grandfather and my dad went up to Washington, around Yakima, up in that
yeah.
area, to pick fruit. And at first, they went up there and they thinned the fruit, the apples they thinned them, and they made good money uh, uh, thinning the fruit. And then they would go over to like around Fort Bragg and spend a couple of weeks or so, and fish and stuff of that sort, and just kind of camping out on the ocean, the
Okay.
beach, and
So is
well,
that kind of how you got us started out? Because
uh,
that's some of my memories growing up is Caribou and Fort Bragg. So
yeah,
camping along there along the coast, that
yeah,
was one of the
yeah. Well, that was one of the things that we did a lot of, and we caught a lot of fish. They had a surface net, and we caught a lot of surfish, and they would bag them up in gunny sacks, and they would take them to a place where they iced them down, and they iced them down for the time it was going to be there, and then we took them back to Marysville, and uh, had a they had a freezer, an oil freezer,
yeah.
and they put all that in there, plus whatever meat they would go up in the hills and uh, and get their deer and stuff because we lived off of the land mostly.
Yeah.
And
Now was that was a lot more common back then?
oh, that was a lot more common. Yeah,
Yeah.
people there wasn't a lot of big industry in our area. It was like I say, it was mostly fruit and stuff, and there was uh, starting to build some big factories and around Sacramento and some of the bigger
Yeah.
areas.
But most places
San
north.
Francisco, they had them,
Yeah.
and then then Grandma and Grandpa and and uh, family, we settled around Marysville here.
Okay.
This is where we're at, and
Do you know about what year at all they might have?
this had to be back, well, in the late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
I was born in 40, and my sister was born in 38, I think it was,
Okay.
and uh, then they started going camping, and so we went up around Quincy, uh, up around Nelson Creek and up in that area, and we was camping up there for 2 or 3 weeks, and my grandfather and dad uh, had an uncle that lived down in Bangor, and so they had found some gold, and so
Wow.
they had him bring up a big cat, and then they brought up a big pump to wash out the sides of the banks at the time. That's
Okay.
because that's what they was doing back in that
Yeah.
time, and so they found quite a bit of gold, and so. Uh, but the winters up there were terrible.
Oh yeah.
It had a lot of snow and it was cold, and so they finally decided that they really didn't have enough time to to work and get that gold out to really make a whole lot of money. They made some good money, uh, but you got to remember back in those days the gold was worth a lot, but it wasn't $16 an ounce, where today it's uh, 170 or 180 an
Yeah.
ounce. So anyway, we uh, they finally they just sold. They sold the property they had, but they went and
Oh,
bought
they
bought it.
bought a
They
claim.
Yeah, they bought a claim up there, and then they sold it, and they got enough money to come back down to Marysville again, and we had enough money to buy my grandfather's house and the property, and my dad and mom's house, and so we uh, just kind of stayed around there, and dad and grandpa uh, was with the fruit for quite a while, uh, and then dad got on at the cannery. They had a cannery here where they uh, picked all the fruit and vegetables and stuff
Yeah.
from around here, and they canned all that stuff, and so dad was working in the cannery, and so after that, then he somehow or another you got on with the school district here. They asked him to. He had met one of the principals or something from, I think it was Mr. Dower in Marysville. He was a sheriff at that time, but he was uh, seemed to be a pretty nice guy, and Dad liked him, and he liked Dad, and so he helped Dad get on with the school district out here in Olivehurst, and so Dad worked for most of the rest of his life
out there.
with
Now, did you guys still do some traveling at that point as far as for
we were,
the?
yeah, we were still traveling back and forth, going up in Washington
Okay,
and during the
so you
fruit
guys are still
during the
following the
summer.
fruit
Yeah,
seasons.
and at that time there wasn't hiring people uh, year round so
Yeah, it was
much
just
with the school
for a
districts.
few.
But
Oh, okay.
but finally, uh, they asked Dad to stay and do all the work and paint the school and do whatever needed to be done to
Yeah.
get it ready for the next year. So my dad then finally stuck with that and did
So
that.
how was traveling? You not just traveling, but like camping back in those days. As
Oh,
far as what?
oh, it was fun. It was fun. I up at uh, uh, the area where we had the gold mine. My dad and them would go in and when you take all those the family up there, but he would stay the whole summer. And
And so
he
you guys would be up there just
oh
whole summers at a
all of us, the
time.
kids, all of us, we was all up there. And we spent the whole summer up there. And Dad then would make our beds up in the trees where the bears and
Oh
animals
wow.
wouldn't get to us. And so we had our beds up in there, and they would take trees and make them across, cut them across, and nail them to different trees
Yeah.
that were kind of square where you square out a bed. And all of us kids, it was at the time I remember when we was young, there was four of us kids at the time. Raymond wasn't with us, and but there was Rita, me, and Evelyn and Jack, and we all slept up on this
Yeah.
big bed, and they cut these limbs and put all those limbs on there to be like a spring. They would put sticks across
Yeah.
and both directions so that
And then
it
all
would be
summer you guys
bouncy.
would just
And we'd all sleep up there. And they had a trailer that they slept in. And uh, but anyway, it was so much fun.
yeah.
We just had a lot to do there. And in the stream that right there by where we was at and where they was getting the goal, we got all the fish we needed from there.
Okay. So
And
still doing a lot, even up there, doing a lot of subsistence and
and during that time, it wasn't illegal to go out and shoot a deer or a bear to eat.
yeah,
So
a
we
lot different
yeah.
back then.
Oh yeah, our meat came from deer and
Yeah.
bear and whatever we could get, and from like I say from fish. So, but it was just a fun life. It really was a great life, and a lot of times after that, then we came back to Marysville after I moved back to Marysville, and it sold a gold mine. Uh, we went in the summers. We would go to Fort Bragg, over around Fort Bragg in that area, and we'd spend a month over there, right on the beach. We just took everything we had and go over there and camp and spend a month over there and get fish and take them down to the plates where they would ice them down and we had a lot of that.
Yeah, and then so you guys
So
would
so so
pack those
oh
for the
yeah,
year as well, pack
yeah,
your fish,
yeah,
freeze
yeah.
them.
It was a great life.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of those kind of traditions, I know, you kind of carried on with us. I mean, camping growing up for us, it was definitely different than a lot of other people. And it definitely, in a sense of amount of time that we would go, where other people would, they would go camp for a weekend a
Yeah,
couple times a year.
yeah.
Or when we would go camping, it would be for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And then we would go a couple like, so even starting my life, maybe the first
Yeah.
10 years of my life, it's just nothing but memories every summer of
Oh,
big chunks.
absolutely. Yeah. I didn't want my family getting away from camping and the stuff out there in the woods. It was just God's country. That's all I
Yeah.
say.
And we like really we really enjoyed it. And the my favorite thing that we ever did, which was definitely a unique part of my childhood, especially for most kids that grew up, was deciding to become a camp host.
Yes. Yeah.
and deciding to basically stay entire summers and run campgrounds.
Yeah.
And so for, my formidable teenage years, um, that's what we did during the summers. And so I got what I consider the privilege of
Yeah.
of getting to spend 3 to 4 months at a time camping, just nonstop.
That,
Basically, you live
that's what we
there.
did the whole summer. Yeah, I loved that. That was is one of the funnest times that we had in our lives as we was getting older. I was able to retire and we would go up and I got a camp host job up there and
Yeah. And I
uh,
mean, of course, it was great being the same place that we had camped all those years, all my life, so I
yeah.
got to kind of have, run to the playground for an entire,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
entire giant kind of place. So
Yeah.
that was always,
Yeah.
really, really fun, as well as the memories of Fort Bragg as well. Camping along those cliffs, I mean, it's still like, you're
Yeah.
right on. I don't know if they're 100 feet high, but
Yeah.
those cliffs are really high,
Oh
and you're
yeah.
just
No,
camped
no,
right
no.
out.
You
Yeah,
if you fell over the cliff, you
yeah.
get hurt pretty bad.
Oh yeah,
But it was fun. They had areas there where they had steps that went all the way down from the top down to the beach,
yeah.
and
It's a beautiful area.
yeah, and so we finally we bought us a motor home, and we would take that motor home and go over there and spend a lot of time uh, along the
Yeah,
coast.
I think I remember like that motor home. I remember as kind of, I think, my first memories of
Yeah,
the one we had,
yeah,
and just kind of the different, trailers and motorhomes over the years. It's
yeah,
just been kind of awesome, and
yeah,
it's definitely meant so much to me growing up, that it's kind of caused me to, want to spend even more time in nature, and even now to the point of wanting to be in that so much that, to actually, get a homestead
yeah,
and start living that kind of life. So I think it's just been, um
yeah.
something you guys did that I think I'm really thankful for, and I hope we
Yeah.
can pass along to.
Well, part of my life was uh, I drove truck a lot,
Yeah,
and
pull that thing up right here. You can
okay.
just turn it a little bit.
Anyway, I drove truck a lot, and I finally bought me a truck, and I was hauling trailers, and so that was a job for quite a few years, and then I worked for with just different companies, big companies,
Mm.
driving truck and hauling things, and uh, I worked for a big company in Texas. I'd moved to Texas for uh, a year, and I drove a truck there, and then I decided I wanted to come back to California.
Yeah.
I love California so much. I really hate to see the way California is gone uh, with all the nonsense. It seems like we're taxed so much in California
We're definitely
that
taxed more
yeah,
than any other
yeah,
state. It is
it's
definitely.
hard for people to really enjoy life anymore because it seems like the state government has really hit us pretty hard, and
Yeah, we're definitely
and so
in an interesting spot. I think a turning point maybe in our state's uh history. We'll see, if it starts turning uh
it's coming back.
yeah. So we'll see as far as that. One thing I was thinking about earlier is when you were talking about the area, was Bill Air Force Base still
Oh,
there at that
well,
time as well? Like
well,
as when you were growing up?
it was what's called Camp Bill. It was an army base. Uh,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. You're right. It
many
was an
many
old. It
years
was
ago.
an
Yeah,
old army base.
yeah. When I was younger, they had a big army base out there. And matter of fact, my dad worked out there some on that army base. He it was during the depression part of the time. Also, he had went to work out the base out there, and so uh, that was a good part of our life understanding working with the government. And the government at that time was still helping people. People were working for the government, and they were giving uh, food stamps and different things.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. Who was it that was working on which dam was it? Was it Shasta
oh,
Dam?
uh, Well, I think Shasta Dam was Joyce's dad.
Okay.
Joyce's dad worked on the
Yeah.
Shasta Dam. My grandfather worked on the Ellis Lake up here. They
Oh yeah,
they
when they
they
built
they
that.
they, they dug that out and built that lake. Uh, they used tractors and cats,
I'm
small.
kind of fascinated by the history of that lake. I think one of these days I want to kind of find out some more about the history of why they built it,
Yeah. Oh,
a
it
little
was
more into.
beautiful. It
Yeah,
was.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of those ones now where it it would be beautiful if the water was just cleaner,
Yeah.
the lake
Yeah. Well,
itself. So
they had it set where the water was coming in uh, to the lake and going out of the lake on the opposite side, and it would go from like the south side over to the north side, and it flowed through there pretty good, and
yeah.
always had nice
And they
clean
were
water.
filtering it. Were they filtering it off from the river and then
Well,
back?
well, no, at that time they wasn't filtering. It was just
Oh, but they were bringing the
fr-
water in
yeah,
from the
yeah,
river there, and
yeah,
then
yeah, through pipes.
yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. It was. Uh, it's always been a beautiful lake. It's still pretty. It has its moments, with all the geese and ducks and stuff. They
Yeah,
allowed to come in and stay. What happens is, it gets pretty nasty with
yeah,
duck stuff all over, and geese stuff all over.
yeah.
And
And like anything, if you don't
yeah,
have real good traveling
yeah,
water, it's
yeah,
gonna.
they need somebody to really go in there and just have a full time job taking care of all that,
Yeah,
keeping it clean. And so all the mess and stuff was they washed it into the lake, and, and instead of cleaning it up and throwing it away,
mm,
they just took hoses and washed it all down into the lake, and then all that
yeah. After all these years,
stench and stuff uh, from the animals would go down in there, and it just made it a little dirtier. And then they changed their system of they was trying to clean it up, uh, it just didn't really work. Uh,
yeah,
Getting that stuff out. If it had done it right the first time, just like I said, sweep it up or done whatever, let it dry up and sweep it up and got rid of it,
yeah,
then the lake would have been clean still, probably.
yeah. So we'll hopefully one of these days we'll somebody will do something about it. Definitely, the town could use a good cleanup. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Peach Life Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for new episodes each week.